Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. It means a lot if you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And today we have a big, gigantic video. It's probably going to be a little bit longer than usual. Maybe it'll be shorter than usual. I don't know. Depending on how I film it, we'll have to see. But it's a bigger video, and therefore there will be no video tomorrow. I'm also going on vacation, so I decided instead of making two, like, maybe 15, 20-minute videos, I'm going to make one 25 plus, 30 plus minute video. I don't know how it's going to come out, but hopefully it comes out pretty long. But I did put a lot of effort into this, 5 to 6 pages of script writing for this one. So let's just, I'm so excited to get into it. I'm going to recap the entirety of season 41 until this point. This point being after episode 3 has aired. I'm recording this the day after episode 3 has aired. So we've had 4 boots, 3 episodes, and we have 3 tribes. And I'm just really excited to get into the season. I know some people really like the season. Some people really hate this season. Cough, cough, the Survivor specialist. And so I don't know how you feel about this, but go ahead and tell me in the comments. 1 to 10, how would you rate Survivor 41? Before we start, 65% of you guys who are watching these videos are not subscribed. Let's change that. It's easy and it's free. Thank you, Skylander, for making my thumbnails. And if that's it, let's get right into this recap. Let's go through the whole season, start to, not finish, start to the 3rd episode. All right, let's get started. Let's get right into it. So episode 1, immediately we get our first boat marooning for it's been a while. I think since David vs. Goliath, because in season 39 we didn't get any marooning in season 38. Actually, no, I think we got a boat marooning in season 38. So there we go. First in a few seasons, because for 40 we got the whole epic beach sand pit moment. And so we got our first boat marooning in a while. This season is a little bit different. There's going to be different twists. It's more of like a new era of Survivor. Jeff uses the term "drop the 4, keep the 1." There's a lot more breaking the fourth wall. Jeff, talks to the camera more often. It just feels like a different type of vibe, and overall, just a different type of era of Survivor. It's not the same type of Survivor that we've seen. Different editing tricks and stuff like that. So immediately we see a challenge where all 3 tribes, and by the way, this is a 3-tribe, 18-person season, if you didn't know, all 3 tribes have to get 6 oars off the boat and then take those 6 oars and row their boat around this thing and come back to the boat. The winners get their flint and other supplies, and the losers have to go back to camp and earn them in a different way. And so in this tribe, we see Ua winning, Luvu coming in second because their boat was tied to the anchor, although Luvu did get over first, like overboard with all 6 oars. And Yase doesn't even get off the boat because they can't find their 6th oar. And it's just a great way to start the season because it just shows a tribe that did really well, a tribe that made a silly mistake, and a tribe that completely fell apart. So how this thing works now that the tribes that lost, being Luvu and Yase, they have 2 choices: sweat or savvy. Savvy is this sort of maybe like I guess I can call it like a geometric puzzle that you only get 1 try to guess the answer to, but if you get it, you get all of your supplies as well as your flint. Whereas in sweat is more of a guaranteed type of thing, but it takes a lot more effort. You have to fill up these huge 2 big tin like jugs full of water from the ocean, which requires a lot of running back and forth from the ocean to the water in the span of 4 hours. And so both you have 4 hours to complete them, but obviously one takes a lot more energy out of you. But the issue is that one is a lot more risky in the savvy option, and that's why both Luvu and Yase pick the sweat option. And from Yase, we see David and Xander volunteer to go because it's 2 people who are allowed to go. And then we see on Luvu, we see Danny and DESHAWN go. And just let's start on Luvu. So immediately, Luvu seems like a very strong tribe. You have the men that are very strong physically, and the women that are pretty strong mentally. Immediately, Nasir, one of the only guy who didn't go and help DESHAWN and Danny with a sweat challenge, he calls out Danny and DESHAWN after saying that we shouldn't do any strategy until they are done. He then goes to Sydney, Erica, and Heather, all of them in a group, and says, "I saw DESHAWN and Danny looking for an idol," which is true as we saw in the episode, but it puts a huge target on his back. And immediately Sydney goes back after DESHAWN and Danny are done and tells DESHAWN and Danny what Nasir said about them, and immediately DESHAWN and Danny do not like Nasir and do not want Nasir around and want to target Nasir immediately. And just for reference, on Luvu we have Danny, DESHAWN, and Nasir. Danny, ex-football player, very strong and seems like a loyal player, very straightforward. DESHAWN, or at least D-Rad is what some people are calling him, but DESHAWN, very nice person, bubbly, but also has like a villainous side to him. And then we have Nasir, who's a very unique character. He came from a very harsh background, but a very good story in his life. Very big fan of Survivor, and overall really nice guy. But he has a slight accent, and overall he's very different for everybody else on this tribe by far. Then for the women on this tribe, we have Sydney, very outgoing, very confident woman, good looking, very a very Angelina type of person. If you've seen season 37, Heather, we have an older lady, your mom, just kind of stay at home mom type of archetype. And then we have, last but not least, we have Erica, who's a communications manager. She's very social, and she seems to be kind of quieter and a little bit more passive than the other players. Next up on UA, where we have JD, very bubbly guy, very huge super fan. We have Ricard, the guy who's very bubbly, but also in a way that's very like he can also be very snarky. He's kind of well rounded in the game. He's pretty good physically, socially, and strategically, and overall kind of is the whole package. And for lastly on the men, we have Brad, country guy, very nice, but like also very hardworking type of guy. Then for the women, we have Sarah, very young woman, sort of like naive, but not in a way that's too much. And she has a really good story, very, very sweet girl. We have Shantel, pastor, but like more like of a progressive type of pastor. Very like nice woman, but also like very like poised and knows like what she's doing. Like very, very good example, or like a role model type of person. And then lastly on this tribe, we have GENIE. She's a grocery store worker, very unique personality, very scrappy type of personality, and very different from the rest of the tribe for sure. So immediately, Shantel and JD are making alliances with everybody. They're like they go to everybody. They're trying to be in control. And Shantel does this much better than JD. Shantel almost takes over the tribe. She starts to like form close bonds with everybody, whereas JD tries to do this and it comes off very like not genuine, and it comes across like very see-through, and everyone kind of sees past his motives and sees what he's trying to do, and takes it as very disgenuine, whereas when Shantel does it, it works, and everybody thinks that Shantel is the number one, or at least almost everybody on the tribe. There is a power trio that sort of emerges from this tribe at this point in Sarah, Ricard, and Shantel. It seems like a power trio. Also on top of that, not Ricard. JD and Shantel kind of form this very close, like number one bond type of thing, where they immediately bond very, very closely, and they're each other's number ones at this point. And because of JD's like lack of smoothness in his strategizing and trying to like make alliances with everybody, and kind of like overall shadiness, he becomes the main target before the challenge is even played. On top of this, Brad and GENIE, the other two, kind of group off in their own pair. Not super duper close, but also pretty close. And they kind of have to, because they're not in the power trio, and their name isn't JD. And then from here, we get the challenge. Now, also, I do want to mention GENIE is kind of on her own island, not like figuratively on her own island. As we'll see later, there's just going to be people who are literally on their own island, but GENIE seems to be figuratively on her own island in this tribe. She doesn't seem to be very socially aware or strategically aware, and kind of seems out of the loop, even on her own alliances plans, as we will see later. So next we actually have Yase. Yase has Evie, very outgoing. She's super nice, and just and she's also a very good player, and she plays a similar game to Shantel, where she kind of takes over her tribe, as we will see. And then from here, we also get LIANA, very strong-willed person, more of a kind of an aggressive player, but also kind of like a not super aggressive, just kind of like in the middle type of personality. Nothing too big, nothing too small. We have Tiffany, the older lady on this tribe, very like questionable gameplay, but you can tell that she's passionate about the game for sure, but very physically weak for sure, and things of that matter. Now we have David, neurosurgeon, very strategical, at least coming into the season, and seems to have a good head on his shoulders for sure. Xander, young guy, very nice, very good social game, physical game, and strategical sense for the game. He seems like the dumb whatever, like, oh, the dumb jock, but he's actually a very, very smart and intellectually advanced guy for sure. And then lastly on the tribe we have Abraham. Abraham is a little bit different than everybody else. He's kind of just on a different wavelength. He's very like in control, I guess you could say. He doesn't really vibe with the rest of them the same way that they vibe with each other. So immediately, Evie creates a bond with Liana, in which Evie is definitely more powerful within that duo. But again, nonetheless, she creates a bond with Liana immediately, and David and Xander bond out and bro out over the sweaty challenge, in which, by the way, both Lulu and Yase complete, successfully. And so during that, David and Xander become also very, very close. And so now we have Liana and Evie, and then we also have David and Xander. And this leaves Tiffany and Abraham. Abraham doesn't really create any super close bonds, although he thinks that he's solid with the two guys because those are the quote unquote strong people in the tribe. And then as far as Tiffany, she clings to the females. Obviously, she's not as close to Evie or Liana as they are to each other, but it's definitely a strong trio there for sure. And then from there, we get the separate island twist. And so from here, Xander, JD, and Danny are picked from each of their tribes. Now, they're all picked in different ways. Xander is picked because his tribe volunteers him up because they feel like he would be the last one to lie. Again, this is his dumb guy persona working for him and, taking the target off of him, which is really good for his game. We have on Lulu tribe, no one wants to volunteer, so Danny just says, "Well, screw it, I'll go, whatever." He's kind of takes control, but in kind of like a good way, where he's just very straightforward type of person, like blunt, but in a good way almost. And then we have JD, where on his tribe Ua, they can't decide who wants to go, and so they draw rocks, and JD picks the white rock, and so we have JD, Xander, and Danny going to this separate island. That's all that they know and that we know as viewers. So they all arrive there, they say hi, and immediately they have to trek up to the top of this very, very tall mountain. And once they get to the top, they see that they all have to split up and make a decision. They all speculate, think maybe it can be like past advantages, or not past advantages, but past situations that have happened in like the first few days of Survivor. But it turns out to be something totally different, in which they all have to make a choice. So they all have to choose between risking their vote and keeping their vote. Now, if they all picked to keep their vote, then they all keep their vote. If they all pick to risk their vote, they all lose their vote for that individual next tribal that they will go to. And if there's a split decision, the people who chose what they chose get to have their choice. Meaning, if one person chooses to keep their vote and two choose to risk, everyone gets what they want in what they chose, or vice versa. And so really what they're looking for is a split decision. And now if everybody picks risk your vote, then you all lose your vote, so that's a bigger risk. And if everybody plays it safe, then nobody walks out losing any sort of votes here. So this is very, very vital decision, and it really shapes the rest of the episode for sure. So we're shown Danny immediately declining to risk his vote. He chooses to save his vote. We're shown Xander risking his vote. And we're shown JD, we don't know what he does, but it's very inferred that he did in fact risk his vote later towards like ongoing in the episode. It starts to become obvious that he definitely risked his vote for sure. And so we'll find out at Tribal if they all got what they wanted, or if they all got screwed, or if they all got good things. We don't know. All we know is that Xander picked risk and Danny picked safe, and so we will find out later at Tribal how that ends up working out. Okay, getting to the immunity challenge, and by the way, there's no reward challenge in this episode. There's an immunity challenge, and it seems to us that we are told that the first tribe to win out of the 3 tribes will not go to Tribal, and the other 2 will both go to Tribal tonight, at least on the day that they said this, or whatever day it is. I think it's day 3 at this point. And we're also told that the losers will give up their flint until next challenge, where they have the opportunity to win the flint back. And so the the stakes are only up tier. You have to get only first place, or else you're going to Triber. So immediately in the physical part of the challenge, Luvu falls behind due to a missing puzzle piece. I think that's what it was. And immediately it looks like Luvu could lose. The other two get to the puzzle first, and eventually Luvu catches up, where Luvu actually comes back in this one, and Luvu is the winner of this challenge, sending Ua and Yase to Tribal Council. So on Yase, very, very simple. We see Abraham throw out to Tiffany's name because she's physically weak. And we see that the entire tribe just sides against him. The women, because they don't want him to vote out Tiffany and then vote out them. And then the men, because they just didn't vibe with him. And the men also had a close, as we'll learn in the next episode, relationship with Evie. And so they felt confident in voting out Abraham, and a unanimous vote was not at all anything special. Very cut and dry type of vote. A lot more interesting on the Ua beach. So we start out on the Ua beach. We see that the power trio wants JD out for being a threat and things like that. They try and bring Brad in with them. And what he does is he ends up saying, no, I actually want to get one of you out. And he points to the people right in front of him, in Shantel and Sarah. And so obviously they can't bring Brad in, but it doesn't really matter if they can bring Brad in anyway, because they already have like the numbers, having a very, very powerful 3 in a tribe of 6. But Brad does go tell JD, which causes JD to then panic. He ends up having a conversation with Shantel. And he definitely feels worried going into Tribal. And at Tribal, JD sees all 3 of the power trio whispering together, and he gets nervous. And he kind of starts like a live Tribal, which is very, very shocking, very, very fun to watch. And basically, the most important parts of it are that he gets up with Shantel, and they make a decision as to who they want instead of voting out him. And he really saves his life here. And they end up choosing Sarah, who goes home. We also do get the news officially that he did risk his vote, and that JD did in fact win his extra vote, and so it worked out for both JD and Xander. In the end, the vote goes down where all 4 people vote for Sarah, because that's who JD and Shan decided during the live Tribal. Shantel, it seems, brings in Ricard from her trio to vote with her to get Sarah out, and Brad already wanted Sarah out, as I said earlier, because of her tribe and physical performance overall on the tribe. And so it's a 4-1 vote. Genie throws a random vote at Ricard because she's on her own island again. I have no idea why. And so it ends up being a 4-1 vote, with Sarah also putting a vote on, I believe, Brad. Okay, episode 2. Nasir, immediately we get a scene where we get the Luvu tribe, and last we heard, Nasir was really, really screwed in this tribe. But we get a whole scene about how Nasir is actually really helping around camp, and that he is a necessity, or else they will not be able to survive out there physically. He's very good at making fire, in which none of them have any luck doing so. And he's overall very, very good. But we see Nasir, growing confidence, and starting to talk about like himself and his story, about how he came from Sri Lanka, which is a very, very small third world country, and that he did not have a good quality of life early on, but he had a lot of fun and kept a positive mindset, and he's getting a very big hero at this point for sure. Over on Ua, we have Brad sees JD and Ricard walking off to talk at the water well, so he immediately races down and first he tells Shantel and Genie that he's going to go spy on them. To which he does exactly that. He runs down the path, beats them there, and hides near the water well where he spies on them. And he hears them talking about him. It's nothing super vital, but it is about him, and it is negative. And so he knows that they are in fact at least talking about gunning for him in the future. And then he races back before they get there, and then ends up playing it cool. But we learn that Shantel just went and told Ricard after that in the ocean that Brad had in fact been spying on them, and so it ended up being a case where it's definitely a detriment to Brad, because now there's a target on his back, and Ricard now really dislikes Brad even more than Ricard did dislike JD in the first episode, and now Ricard is gunning for Brad at this point for sure. And now we have Yase, in which most of the episode really circles around. So on Yase, we see Evie with the guys, and the guys seem very confident that Evie's with them, and they're talking strategy, and it seems very, very genuine. and we're like, wait, is Evie with the guys? And then all of a sudden it cuts back to her going back with the girls and saying, hi, like they like think I'm on their side, but I'm actually with the girls, and I don't want to play the women because, you know, men always beat women at the end, so I'm gonna play with the women and this and that. And so Evie seems to be playing the guys and playing with the women. And so it seems as if Evie is definitely in complete control of her tribe by far. Then we see Xander with the beware advantage. So Xander finds an advantage called the beware advantage, and on the front it basically it infers that there's like a caveat that comes along with the advantage that he just found, but he opens it anyway. And then it basically what it is that he does not have a vote until the other two tribes find the same advantage. But when they do, not only does he get his vote back, but he also gets an idol. And so it's kind of a disadvantage, but it's also kind of an advantage depending on how you look at it. And you know what else is a disadvantage? Is my dog barking in the background right now. You can hear him. Say hi. All right, back to the video. And we're back. My dog is not barking, but we'll see how long that lasts. All right, so after this, I believe Xander tells David and Evie, thinking that that's their strong trio, which Evie then immediately goes and tells the girls exactly the same thing. And now the girls are full-on throttle on Xander because they want to get him out before his advantage comes back and starts to, or like unlocks itself, and then he has so much power in the game. And definitely more specifically, Evie and Liana really, really want Xander out. So at the challenge, Tiffany screws up on the balance beam, very like Cerie style screw up, except she rebounds a lot quicker than Cerie did. And she did get a little slow-mo dramatic shot. So there you go. And she got the dig. You got a dig from Jeff. So I mean, I guess it was worth. I mean, I'd do that if I can get a dig. You got a dig from Jeff. So and then that causes the Yase tribe to lose a challenge for the second episode in a row. So now another person is going to be leaving from the Yase tribe, but not before two people go to an island. It's the same island as last episode. Someone from the winning tribe, or the people from the winning tribe, have to pick someone from the losing tribe in the Yase tribe, which they pick Evie, and then they had to choose someone from either their tribe or the green tribe to go with Evie, and they will come back before tribal, or at least the person from the Yase tribe who ends up being Evie comes back before tribal, and so I believe DESHAWN volunteers himself to go with Evie, and so they go to the island. It's the same exact prompt as last time, where it's either risk your vote or save your vote. But on the way up the mountain, Evie and DESHAWN form a bond. Evie even tells DESHAWN that she's gunning for Xander, and that she tells DESHAWN that she's going to pick to save her vote because she knows about this twist, and that DESHAWN can now pick risk his vote, and that can cause them to, or at least them to form a very close bond, because now she's basically giving DESHAWN a free advantage in the game. And this is exactly what happens. We see that DESHAWN risks his vote, and that Evie does in fact save her vote. And so whenever DESHAWN goes to tribal next, he will receive his extra vote. So Evie returns, and Tiffany is very worried about Xander's idol may be activating in some sort of way, either because she thinks that the guys are lying to Evie, and then Evie's telling them what she knows, but the guys are lying to Evie, and that Xander's idol is actually active, or that the girls are lying to her. And either one would result in the idol being active if that's the case. And if that's the case, Xander would probably vote for Tiffany, and then you use his idol, which would cause Tiffany to go home. And this is really stressing her out. And in fact, she's just super convinced that she's going to get idled out if they don't vote for someone besides Xander. Because if Xander plays the idol for himself, then the only other person to vote for is David. So she's freaking out, and she wants David to be the vote just to be safe. Now, I don't know why they wouldn't just split the votes 2-1 for 2 for Xander and then 1 for David, and then if Xander plays his idol, because Xander doesn't have a vote, then it's just David's vote versus the one vote they put on David. It's tiebreaker, and then they vote again, and they vote out David really easily. Or if Xander doesn't play his advantage, then you just get an easy Xander goes. I don't know why they didn't do that, but they end up just putting all of their votes on David, where David in fact does go home, and Xander has no vote. And so it is I believe it was it a 3-0? Was it a 4-0? Maybe a 3-1 vote? I don't know if Xander voted for David or if Xander tried to still stay with David, but it seemed like everyone was kind of like knew it was going to happen, including Xander as well. And then up to episode 3. So on Luvu, Nasir is trying to target DESHAWN and Danny again, back to the old narrative of episode 1. He even tells Sydney at night that he wants to target that he wants to target DESHAWN and Danny, and that he wants specifically Danny out because of how big of a threat he is. And again, he's putting himself really out there. And again, Sydney does the exact same thing. But this time she goes on the beach and tells the entire tribe, where they all laugh at Nasir. And Nasir's back at camp, and he makes like a kind of a public, like, oh, like, I'm sorry if or whatever, like if I said the wrong thing, just like whatever. And everyone kind of just disregards it. And now this puts him back in a really bad spot. In which I don't feel good about Nasir at all at this point. It seems like he's back to square one where he was after the whole debacle in episode 1. Also, Sydney finds what's this little, I'm going to call it the boat advantage, but really it's another beware advantage, in which it says that you need to get on a boat that night and sneak out of camp, and that if you don't get on that boat, you will lose your vote. It rhymes, so it makes sense. P.S. There wasn't a rhyme on the paper. I just made that up in my head, and I'm very proud of myself. Next, on Yase, we have LIANA wanting to vote out Xander. And she feels like her tribe's not making the right decision, and that she feels very pressured to play a big game coming from the family that she did, and that she feels like if she doesn't vote out Xander, then she might regret it, and that might be her $1 million mistake. And it's a very emotional scene. I can understand where she's coming from, but I don't think it's worth crying over necessarily. Also to add, Tiffany finds the boat advantage after LIANA nearly misses the advantage by literal inches of not seeing it right in front of her face. Except on this tribe, LIANA and Evie see her find it, and they all just read it together, and they know that Tiffany has to sneak out of camp that night, so she doesn't really have to sneak, she just has to go out of camp that night. The only person who I believe did not see it was Xander. So on Ua, Brad finds the boat advantage as well, same thing as the rest of them. But more importantly, he also finds the beware advantage that Xander also has. The idol that's kind of a disadvantage as well type of advantage. And so now he has that, and him and GENIE know about it. And they realize that Xander also has it. And so they're very excited, because now only one more tribe needs to find it, and then they're all activated. But the issue is, until then, he has no vote. And just to add on Ua, everyone's looking for idols. It's a very strategical tribe. Everyone's on idol hunts, and so to see Brad find all this stuff is quite hilarious. Then they all get on a boat, which so no one loses their vote, and they all go to this little, I'm gonna call it the Night Island. And so on the Night Island, there's another like predicament similar to the one from the first episode, and that is that you have two choices: either risk your vote or don't. If everyone picks don't risk your vote, then you all get the tarp. You know what? Let's just call it risk your vote or tarp. So if everybody picks tarp, then you all get a tarp. If there's if everybody picks a risk your vote, you all lose your vote for the next tribal that you appear in. I believe that's what it is. And then if there's a split decision, the people who picked risk your vote get an extra vote. Or I think it might be a steal a vote, actually, or it's either a steal vote or an extra vote. And then the people who choose tarp get nothing. And so this one's a bit different, and it kind of forces people to be more aggressive with their choices. And Brad is 100% all in on picking to steal, the steal vote or the extra vote advantage. Sydney and Tiffany think that the other two are going to pick, they think that the other one is going to pick to steal or the extra vote, and so they both, to play it safe, pick tarp, knowing that they're going to get nothing, so that everyone doesn't accidentally pick steal a vote or whatever it is, extra vote, and then they all lose their vote. And so it's only Brad that comes out of this twist with his extra vote / steal vote advantage. I'm gonna call it steal vote for now. Okay. At the challenge, Ua loses because of JD's missing the little beanbag tosses onto the platforms. JD just doesn't do a good job. He tries to do it like all fancy, and it really doesn't work, and it makes him look like quite an idiot, actually. At this point, Brad shares all of his advantages with SHANTEL. He shares all of this information because he feels like SHANTEL is his number one. And so from this point on, SHANTEL feels like she's torn between voting out JD, and you'll see why she wants to in a second, or Brad, because he has all of these idols and advantages. So now to why she wants to vote out JD. So JD and Ricard are around the same time see an advantage in JD's waistband because JD was like kind of caught lazy, like he kind of sagged his pants and like he wasn't paying attention, and his advantage popped out. So immediately JD comes clean to them, brings them aside and says, "Yep, I have this advantage." He from the first episode that we had talked about earlier, and now that they know that JD has an extra vote, which is good throughout the full game. I think up to final 5, I think. And so they no longer trust JD, or at least trust was definitely lost. And JD knows that and pleads to them that, please keep me, and please all you guys can use me. I'm now yours. And so now JD has put himself on the hot seat, and so now it's either JD for what I just talked about, or Brad for all of his advantages and him being a gigantic threat. And really, Chantel and Ricard are the deciding votes on this one. When we get to tribal, JD's pleading to Chantel, please, look he uses a metaphor about crystals where he says these relationships are like crystals, and when just because I dropped yours, I hope that you don't drop mine as well. And then Chantel gives him some tough love and basically just says, yeah, well, it's, like you can't expect people to treat yours, like your crystal with respect when you're not with us, or something along those lines. She basically puts him in his place, and it really puts JD on the hot seat. But there's not really much he can do. He doesn't even use his shot in the dark die, which is surprising, but it ends up being a good choice because they end up voting out Brad in this spot, and Brad is swiped out with all of his advantages. So now we're left to wonder what's going to happen in the next time on Survivor. We see DESHAWN possibly trying to throw another challenge and get Luva to go, probably to vote out Nasir is probably what he wants to do. And then we see Tiffany finding something on the island and telling her whole tribe, "Oh my God, come look, come look." And then we see JD and Shan getting into a bit of a tiff on the beach, and JD feeling like Shan has betrayed him. That's where we're up to now. Again, in the comments, tell me, what would you rate the season so far out of 10, and give me a little paragraph as to why. I'm very interested to see if you guys like the season, if you guys hate it. But you know what's more important? If you like the channel, in fact, go ahead and like the video down below. That's even more important. But more importantly than that, subscribe, and most importantly, hit the notification bell. Thank you guys for continuing to show all this support. We're only growing. The views are getting better. The subs are getting better. Watch hours are getting better. Everything's getting better, guys. That's all because of you. Yeah, you watching this video right now. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Tell your friends. Tell people watch Survivor. All that good stuff that you hear all YouTubers say. I don't need to say it. You guys are amazing. You guys will continue to support me. If you guys continue to click, I'll continue to keep making. Again, give me suggestions down in the comments for future videos. I will see you guys on Saturday with our power rankings and predictions podcast. Yeah, that is in fact what it's called. It'll be a super long one where I talk with my buddy Skylander about the whole season and rank everyone from 0 to now it's 15, I think. It'd be 14 now, 0 to 14, as most likely to go home, least likely to go home. It's gonna be a very, very fun episode. Tune into that, and if that's it, guys, I will talk to you guys later in the next one.